Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another live stream on the History Valley podcast. And today I'm joined by Dr. Betty Kaufman. And today we're discussing a new book proposal. Uh, it's titled Creation Considered Creature Encounters of the Fifth Kind. We're going to be talking about that today. And before we start that discussion, I want to introduce her to everybody real quick for those who've never heard of her before. Betty J. Kaufman received a Bachelor's of Arts in Journalism in 1980 from the University of Iowa, and a Master's of Arts in 1982 and PhD in 1992 in Communications from the University of Pennsylvania. She taught at the college level for almost 30 years and retired professor emerita from the University of Louisiana Monroe in 2017. She was ordained a deacon in the Episcopal Church in 2008 and has served as a deacon in several congregations and was archdeacon of her diocese for almost 10 years. She earned certification as a Louisiana Master Naturalist in 2017. She took up photography as a teenager and has won photography awards and is regularly invited into national and international juried art exhibitions. She has professional experience in videography, journalism, and public relations. In 2024, she received a regional award for her work in conservation, citizen science, and nature photography. And with that being said, welcome to History Valley Podcast, Dr. Betty Kaufman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So can you tell us a bit about what your proposed book is about?
Sure, I'll try. It's about my experiences. I am a photographer, and I do a variety of kinds of photography. One of my favorite things is nature photography, or I tend to call it creation photography. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I do bird counts and butterfly counts, and just go for hikes in the woods and walks on the beach, and look for what's interesting and wonderful and beautiful out there to photograph it. And it is a very spiritual experience for me. And so that's what I try to convey in my book is it's really my stories that go with my photographs of my encounters with creation, critters, but also plants and simply earth, water, etc. What they mean to me, trying to convey what they mean to me above and beyond just, oh, what a pretty picture.
Does the book discuss finding God within nature?
Well, that's an interesting question because not explicitly. There's no chapters like here's how you find God in nature. There's nothing like that. It's much more subtle. It's much more here's how I experienced this, and it was a deeply spiritual experience for me. And it's not at all pedagogical. There are a couple of books on the market that really are about telling people how to go out and experience God in nature, how to find connections. Mine is much more just here's how I did, here's what I did, and here's how I experienced that and what it meant to me. So it's not no literal sense is there any direct discussion of that, but there's a lot of implications of that is what I'm doing, and I hope that you will be inspired and want to do it as well.
So how do you connect nature with God then? Like what kind of connection do you actually see?
Well, I come from a very Franciscan perspective, and so connection seems almost too mechanical. I'm not quite sure how I would go about trying to separate God and nature, you know. So it's 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 a sense to me that the universe came into being by a creator, and therefore that creator is there, out there, and present in that, and that I can experience that and find it in a variety of places and experience it in a variety of ways. So links makes it sound like, well, here's a link and there's a link, and that's not quite how I experience it. But I can I'll give an example. There's an Episcopal priest by the name of Barbara Brown Taylor, who wrote a book called An Altar in the World. And in that book, she starts from the story of Jacob that is told in the Hebrew scriptures, of Jacob fleeing from his brother Esau because, of course, they'd had this big falling out. And he spends the night in the wilderness, sleeping on the ground with a stone for a pillow. And he has a dream of God and God speaking to him, and of angels going up and down from heaven on ladders. And he gets up in the morning and he says, and he builds a little altar out of stones, and he says, surely God was already here and I did not know it. And Barbara Brown Taylor in her book says, if we tune in to the world, the creation, all of it, with that awareness and openness, and we'll see ladder footprints and little stone altars all over the place. We'll be stumbling all over the place. That's how I see it. That's God is there. It's, are we aware of it? Can we tune into it?
And for this next question, the reason why I'm going to be framing the question the way I'm going to is for people that might be listening to the show and they might misunderstand some things.
Right.
So basically, when you're talking about nature and God and the way you're going about it, this is not, you would not characterize this as being equivalent of, say, universalism.
No, nor pantheism. No, not at all. God is bigger than all of that, in my view, in my experience. The God I experience is bigger than all of that. It's bigger than any single religion. It's bigger than any sort of really, it's just, God is bigger than all of that. But God is there. And our ongoing human issue, I think, is becoming aware of that. Becoming aware of that. We need help becoming aware of that. So no, I do not see this as, it's not like the stone is God. It's not like the tree is God. It's that God's there and God can reveal God's self to us through those things.
So what you're saying is basically that in a way, you're looking at nature as being, instead of saying that's, instead of making that God itself, that instead of universalism, you're seeing
Right.
uh,
That's right.
hints of God through
Yes.
nature, like
Yes.
actions.
Right. Yes. Presence. Presence. Um, and you know, I'm sure actions, but presence, really just presence. The holy is there. The sacred is out there. It's in here too, but for me, seeing it, experiencing it out there somehow is easier. That's where I go to experience it. But it's not like confusing God with any specific thing.
We have a
It's a little abstract feeling. I know that, but and I struggle always for better words to try to describe it for people, but that's what it is to me. And it's if you read Franciscan theology, that's I think part of this comes from reading Franciscan theology from people like Barbara Brown Taylor's book, who simply write of our challenge being, so many humans experience ourselves in our lives as like there's a chasm that has to be crossed. Well, a good way for me to to feel connected and close to God is to go out for a walk in the swamp. That really helps me see that God is with us in a variety of ways, and we can experience that presence by being in nature. That's one of the way we can experience it.
So we got a super chat question from Solar Knight. Thank you for your super chat. Genesis 1, let there be light, let the water, let the land vegetate, let living creatures, let natural creation evolve. God's as observer, not creator.
No, I don't think God is simply as an observer. I think that the spirit, the indigenous peoples of Australia have a wonderful way, I think, of looking at it, um, which is that they call the creator the spirit of all life. Well, I think that's a pretty good way to think about God, the spirit of all life. And so what animates us in the universe is not just an observer, It's the spirit of all life, which we participate in, as does creation.
So, like you just said, when you brought in when you're looking at the Aboriginal
Yes.
theology, do you also see common links with that with other religions that you've looked at as well?
Yes. In the book, there's more than once in the book that I use phrases from Sufi poetry. Sufi is the mystical, spiritual aspect of Islam. This book is not about any, I'm a Christian, I'm a deacon, I'm an ordained deacon in the Episcopal Church. So the Christianity is my religion, but I don't want the book to be about Christianity. I want the book to be about spirituality and finding God. And I think the Sufis, so there's a chapter in the book about my experience when I was photographing dragonflies at the edge of the swamp, and an alligator followed me, started watching me, and I looked up, and there's the alligator looking at me, and I walked out farther on, and the alligator followed me out in the water. I was on the land. And I call that the name of that chapter is 100 Ways to Stop. 100 ways to kneel. There's 100 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. That's a Rumi quote. That's a quote from an Islamic poet. So I think that the spiritual part of many religions, I don't know about all. I have taught world religions, but I don't know them all equally well. I can't say all, but certainly I do think that there are other religions that have discovered have shown us ways to experience God in the world.
Do the dialogues and encounters discussed in the book also have to do with finding links between God and nature?
Well, sort of, but again, links feels like a little mechanical to me. But so I couldn't I'm, we're all accustomed to links on the internet now, and you click this link and you go there, right? That's way too mechanical of an image for what I'm talking about. It's so it's much more subtle than that. But yes, it is looking for God out there. It's looking for evidence that this is not an accidental universe, that there's the spirit of all life is out there, the sacred, it is a holy place, and we participate in that.
And from the work that you've done on the book so far,
Mhm.
what has had what conclusions have you drawn so far from what you put together, including the stuff you've put together from studying other religions that you've looked into when you assemble it all?
That God is near, that God is bigger than any given religion, and that God is near and is available to us. And one of the ways to find God is to open yourself to the experience of God through creation. I think that's probably the most concrete conclusion that I can give you. I, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else who has put it in clearer terms, but and it's hard. I struggle with this. I really, really do. How describing what I'm talking about here, but here one of the conclusions I've come to is that the more we attempt to limit God and to say, okay, if you only go to church to find God, I'm really sorry for you. I'm really, really sorry for you because, and so that my biggest conclusion is that more that we try to limit God and put God in this place and not that place and etc., the less opportunity we will have to experience God in a real way that moves us deeply.
So basically, what you're saying is that in one sense, talking about God is a bit more complicated than some people make it out to be, but and also people limit it too much by trying to confine it to
This,
a condensed system.
that is true for me. Trying to confine God to a specific religion or to a specific place is to me trying to box in God. God is bigger than all that to me. That's how I experience. That's the God I experience, who is bigger and broader and than all of that. And so it's to me a process of opening one's mind to that. If you start with boundaries, only this can be God. This is the only way. Then I don't know. That might work for some people. It does not work for me at all.
What kind of message is the photographer looking for from the universe?
Well, I think one of my chapters ends. It's a chapter that's the longest chapter in the book so far, and I'm not finished. But I made a trip to Australia, and I spent a lot of time driving. I had a rental car, and I drove, and I went to various places. I decided I was going to a conference to present a paper, an academic conference to present a paper, and I wanted to make the most of my experience in Australia by hitting as many spots as I could. And so I drove from the Sydney airport to Jervis Bay on the south, that would be the southeastern coast, Tasman Sea. And I was there for a couple of days, and then I headed inland, wanting to go to the wine country, which is more inland. And I drove. I got up early in the morning, got in my car, and began to drive. And I drove, and Australia's mountainous. I drove up some steep, windy, hairpin turns, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it was sucked in with fog. I mean, it was just, I couldn't. I had to drive slow. And then all of a sudden, I came out of that. I was going up a mountain. I was going up a mountain, hairpin turns, and I came out of the fog, and I was looking out over a valley full of fog, just as the sun was beginning to rise and color the sky. And it was so amazing. It was just so I pulled. Thank goodness there was very little traffic because it was very early in the morning and it was a very narrow road and there was nowhere. So I pulled over to the side till my passenger door was almost touching the rock wall. Um, and I got out and I went and stood on the edge of the road and I looked out over this valley level full of fog and the sun coming up and making the sight gold in the distance. And I stood there and I was just kind of over, and it felt very much like the universe was speaking to me. And I went to Australia in a time in my life that was very hard. I was struggling with some stuff, a relationship ending, going the wrong way, etc. Um, and it just at that moment it felt like the universe was saying to me, "You got to live. You got to live. Just live, live, and experience, and don't sit back. You can't. Don't give up. Don't let live." And that's probably the kind of message that I get more. It's not a specific do this or do that. I don't get that kind of message from God. Do this or do that. Make this decision. Don't make that decision. I don't, never have. But I do get, I'm with you. I'm there. Keep going, etc. That kind of message. And that's what I get from the universe, from moments like that. Moments like that is the spirit to go on.
So we
Does that
got
make
number
any sense?
I got that. We got Solara Knight, another super chat. Thank you for your super chat. Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image means that goddess was having children. What's your take on that?
Oh, goodness. I love Genesis. It's a wonderful book of stories about how things came to be. But when you're asking for a more specific explanation, I think evolution is a pretty good theory. So I don't know. I think the spirit of all life is divine, is divinity, and that's what I call God. But I don't care what you call it. Um, and But exactly how human beings came into being, I don't know. I don't take Genesis to be a literal account. I don't take Genesis to be. I don't. I have a. I have in my. I love editorial cartoons. Love them, and I collect them. And somewhere in my collection of editorial cartoons, I have a picture. I have an editorial cartoon of an old white man with long white hair and a long white beard, of course, right, sitting at a table and rolling something that looks like Play-Doh. And he's making snakes, right? And he's saying to himself, "Wow, these things are easy," right? So that kind of notion that Genesis is about that, no, I don't think so. So human beings came about somehow, and did God want us? Yeah, I think so, but I don't know exactly how that happened, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't. The Christian answer is that God wanted humans to love and to love God back. That works pretty good for me, but other religions might view it slightly differently. Most religions, however, though, see themselves as being the first people. That's an interesting thing to me about various religions, is that they see them. Almost everybody sees themselves as the first people, the real people. Well, who knows God's mind? I sure don't. I get glimpses of it, I think, from time to time, but I don't. So, did God want children? Did God want people to love? Works for me. I don't presume to try to tell other people that that's exactly what happened.
We got Frank Hughes in the chat. Frank says, "Didn't there used to be a distinction between natural religion and revealed religion?"
Yes. Well, you're asking me a more technical religious question than but I would say that one of the reasons that we can go out to creation and experience God there is because the creation is God's first self-revelation. That is how, and that is what the Franciscans say. So that's kind of where I plant my feet. I don't even think that St. Francis of Assisi, although he loved creation and he spoke with the animal, etc., and encountered the animals, I don't think he was practicing natural religion. I think he was seeing all of creation out there is God's self-revelation, just as important of from God being from as human beings are. That creation that St. Francis of Assisi experienced was just as important to him as human creation, as the creation of human beings. In other words, very much seeking to overcome that notion that there's nature and then there's humankind, and we are the supreme, and nature is something other and lesser than us. But that doesn't make what he was natural religion, I don't think.
We got another super chat question from Solar Knight again. Thank you for another super chat. Divine is simple for grapevine. Do you have a take on that?
I don't. Christianity uses the grapes, the vine, as a sort of a metaphor for our connections to each other, to the world, to God. And I mean, and Jesus of Nazareth is quoted in the Christian Bible as saying, "I am the vine, you are the branches." So that certainly is a symbol that is prominent in Christianity. I wouldn't go much farther with it than that, I don't think. And then, of course, in Christian mass, the mass, Christians perceive the vine, the wine, as a symbol of the blood of Christ. Again, it's a symbol.
And for my final question, what do you hope people will take away eventually when you are finished with the book and when it does come out?
I would say if it does, Jacob, because I'm looking for a publisher and I don't know if I'm going to, and I don't know, I might self-publish it if it isn't, because it's important to me. But what I hope they will take away from it is simply, here's how one person experienced God in creation. And this might be an inspiration. This might help me to open my mind to do that. It's not a pedagogical book. I'm not trying to teach you to do anything. I want the readers to experience the stories as I experienced them, and maybe take some inspiration away from that, and find themselves more appreciative of perhaps of creation than they might have been before. I think, and I guess I should say that I'm also a naturalist and a conservationist, and I do think that our treatment right now, our treatment of the planet, is pretty bad. And we need, and if people, I think if people saw creation as more God's home, not God, but God's home, they would treat it differently. We would be more careful. We would be more conscientious. We would not dump the ocean full of plastic. How could you do that if you really thought that the planet Earth is God's home? That's the larger agenda for me, and I hope that my experiences, but it really, again, it is my experiences being out there with my camera, and that maybe those will reach someone, touch someone in some way.
And before we close, whenever and if and when the Betty's book comes out, I'll put the link to it in the description below and the pinned comment.
Thank you.
And with that being said, thank you very much for joining me today, Dr. Betty Kaufman.
You're very, very welcome, Jacob. Thank you.
Hello viewers, thanks for watching this video from the History Valley YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if any of you wish to further support this channel, please consider checking out this channel's Patreon page and becoming a patron, and or donate through PayPal or through Super Chat during your live stream. Thank you.